Anyways, it's like there's a row of 3 buttons with 5 buttons in each row. Start stream is in the bottom right corner, and it flips to finish stream when you're live, right? Which makes sense.
Right.
But it also kind of I was debating, like, do I put it on the bottom or the top? Where do I want it? Or do I even want it there? And clearly I shouldn't put it there.
Yeah, you need the little like flip top.
Yeah,
Key,
exactly.
Engage.
So sorry if you're watching. I mean, that I guess resets the videos on the stream, so that's good. But the audio is fine. We'll keep going from here. I'll just cut this part out, I guess. But anyways. Adventures in streaming. After it went so well yesterday, I'm now dealing with issues today. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm pretty good. How's your shelter at home going with the family and everyone?
It's going good now. It definitely feels like we're sort of settled into this, like this is the reality of life, and almost like disease notwithstanding, obviously, like end the disease and get the vaccines and all that stuff. But I kind of like, my wife and I were talking, we're not really in a hurry to go back to normal busy life where you don't have a immediate obvious out of social commitments and activities and things. Just kind of like maybe we're becoming too much of a hermit, and like going back to normal life is going to be really awkward and weird. But that's sort of where we're at. We're kind of hunkered down. Although now it's finally gotten nice here, so kids are outside. We're able to go for walks, bike rides, whatever, and probably do like there's a lot of, I don't know if this is happening where you are or if it's frowned upon, but people are starting to do sort of like driveway drinks where they'll like sit. One family sort of at the top of the driveway, one's at the bottom of the driveway, bring your own lawn chair, your own drinks, your own whatever, and just kind of shout at each other across your driveway just to sort of connect a little bit beyond a Zoom call. But how's life in your world?
I have not seen that going around in our neighborhood, although we're not the most car-oriented place. I mean, kind of we are because we're pretty close in the city, but I could imagine that working. I think what you'd have to deal with more is the so-called Seattle freeze tends to default to less social activities most of the time. But I have seen a lot of pictures of people doing good distancing at all of our parks, because last week was really nice weather, and it happened to be spring break, although that obviously didn't change much for school other than the teacher wasn't posting anything in the app. Yeah. And now we're kind of trying to get back into that routine of actually there are sort of some assignments you should do, even if it's kindergarten, even if it's online only.
Yeah. Yeah, we're back in the swing of things in the schoolwork. This week was a bit rough going back to that, I think. And but luckily it hadn't been too long, so they've adjusted. 2 of the 3 of our kids, I won't name names, but are really keen to get it done first thing in the morning, and then the other one is sort of drags it out all morning. So we're having fun with that. But yeah,
I think you mentioned before we started recording they're on Minecraft right now. So is that they have to finish the schoolwork and then they get Minecraft sort of situation, or what's the parenting strategy there?
Yeah, we basically do the so we have in our world 11 o'clock is when screen time can start, and there's kind of like a screen time window from 11 till 2 or whatever, and get an hour or so, or whenever we decide we need to stop, or we are done work, or whatever we happen to be doing, or having lunch or whatever. And so as long as they get everything done, some of the homework, a bit of cleanup and organizing and get dressed and, breakfast and all that kind of stuff happens by 11, then they can dive into screen time. And so that's more or less worked. And then it's just a matter of whether we're busy enough or free enough, I guess, to be able to come back and check to make sure they are done those things before they dive into screen time. And that's where some of the fun, air quotes, fun starts. But it's nice with the Microsoft ecosystem on the Xbox anyways, where we can actually lock down the accounts to like, it only works from 11 till 2 and you get an hour within that window. So then they've figured out, well, it's probably better to like do Minecraft on the computers because there's no like lockdown system, and mom and dad might forget for a little while, and they get an hour and a half instead because they get busy doing a live stream or whatever they happen to be doing.
Not watching the clock and
and just kind of enjoying the silence. So how about you? What's the day-to-day life been like?
Yeah, so like true screen time is really reserved for the afternoons, kind of like during dinner prep and so forth. But we've been doing a lot more sort of screen time because of the nature of some of the remote learning stuff. There's different apps that the district or the teacher has recommended or uses actively. some of which are, kind of educational games. So far, what I've seen, I've been kind of unimpressed with the options that the was recommending, in terms of, little math games and stuff. But it sounds like tomorrow is going to be the first live kindergarten class. The teacher's going to run a Zoom call for as many of the students show, and that will be fascinating to watch, I think. I've heard other parents that I know mention exactly how that goes. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what's on our mind. We don't have anything locked down for screen time yet, but we might start using some of the iOS features on the family iPad to say, like, well, during this time, only the school apps are allowed, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun sort of state, like seeing the various stages of our kids, anyways, grade 7, grade 4, grade 2, and like their teachers' capabilities of doing all the online learning stuff. And then some of them, they're like sent to like, yeah, it's like a typing tutor site, but obviously a very like, uh, upsell, lots of ads, and trying to get you to buy account. But like a grade 2 is supposed to navigate and figure out where the actual
Right.
button is to click to play the game when there's 5 other buttons that say click this game button or whatever, and it's all advertisements and stuff. So it's been kind of a weird learning curve that way. But and they're all like, yeah, doing like slideshows, putting together slideshow projects for their class and stuff. And so I guess it's good in learning PowerPoint and buttons and clicking, and how easy it is to lose a text box in PowerPoint and have it never come back again. Other tearful things and discoveries that way. But yeah.
Yeah, what was it recently? I think my son was using some drawing app and like deleted the whole layer, and that was, I was able to find the undo, but it was in a different place than like the within layer undo,
Yeah.
and there was some tears over that because his entire drawing of a boat was gone, until I figured out how to get it back.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I think in general for screen time, we're kind of trying to keep the flexibility because we don't know what our routine's going to be up to. If I have a work meeting, or my wife has a call with a friend, or whatever we're all trying to do around the house, cleaning and food prep and so on, that sometimes we just need to be able to do that very focused occupy when a book isn't an option, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you got to like everybody. We've seen the Twitter and whatever social media app of like, relax about the screen time rules, and it's gonna be okay. We're all, it's a weird world right now, and so that's
Yeah, exactly.
generally our approach too. It's just, yeah, we have one kid who's an addict and would just be there all day if we didn't have some sort of monitoring. So we kind of have to do it for what we do for one, we do for all. So speaking of which, in Kids Corner, what kind of games have been occupying screen time? So I'm Minecraft mainly these days. They discovered a bit of they tried the Switch game, that the train one, Conduct Together, that one,
Oh
um,
yeah,
a bit, but
we haven't gone back to that one.
yeah, it wasn't enough to sort of hook them in. They did some Mario Kart, and unlocked a bunch of or got the 3 stars or whatever for a bunch of the tracks and things like that. And
Right.
and then they've discovered Psych is the game, I think from Ellen DeGeneres, like publishing or whatever, on the phone, that they've discovered with friends that they play over, like they FaceTime call and then all play
Oh,
this Psych game, like sort of answer questions and guess whose questions or whose answers are which and all that kind of stuff. So that's sort of where our kids have been, anyways. Landed. How about what have you guys been doing?
yeah. So I think you had recommended among your various Jackbox games was Drawful 2 was on sale on the Switch, so we grabbed that for like $1, and we've just been playing that one locally, the three of us, and that's been pretty fun. It's interesting because my son wants to write very detailed captions as part of the game for the pictures, like 7 or 8 words, so it's very obvious which clues are his.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like, well, try to be a little more vague so we don't know if it's you or the game, right? But we're working on that. And then um, Asmodee, the French like board game company, released a couple of their print and play demos for free, and one of them is this escape room puzzle game with a companion app, and so you have to like work with the cards physically, and then sometimes some of the puzzles will say, hit this button in the app and enter the code, and the app will check that you did it right. That was interesting, but a little too hard, even for me, let alone a 6-year-old, 6.5-year-old. And then yeah, so the other thing was yeah, I talk about games I used to play, and he's always very interested in that. So I think the other week I was talking about how much I loved the Sim games as a kid, and so I found a copy of SimLife off the back of a truck for DOS, and fired that up
Wow.
and just showed him. And it was actually really interesting. I think we were talking before the call about sort of windowing in apps. So it's a DOS game, and I vaguely remember trying it at a friend's house, but they implemented like an entire windowing system just, you know, with pixels like inside of a DOS full screen view,
Yeah.
to handle all the palettes and game maps and stuff. So it's interesting going back almost 30 years now and seeing what games we're doing on different platforms, to be able to sort of, especially complicated simulation games, which are generally lacking on, like a Switch or an iOS. Yeah, they're very much a PC sort of platform thing.
I was thinking I was loading up a demo or a video of it, but actually SimLife you can play on archive.org, I guess. And so for anybody watching the stream, anyways, that's what's loading right now. It's actually like a DOS emulator that's actually playing the game, I think. So
Yeah, so you can emulate like a DOS PC just in JavaScript these days, I guess.
yeah, this is bizarre. I'm gonna get lost in this because I'm gonna play some game that I totally remember playing. Was this actually the game? I don't know. I guess you're not seeing it, but this is the game that I remember playing.
Oh,
This.
yes. Yeah, that's what we tried the other day. We went through the tutorial. But it's interesting because the tutorial actually basically teaches you how to do window management, because I think the assumption was
Yeah.
you might not have used a graphical user interface on a computer,
Yeah.
which is
Totally.
pretty wild. Um,
That's awesome.
compared to modern game tutorials that try to really get you into the gameplay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I guess I didn't even need to download a copy of the game. I could just play it in browser.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I put a lot of time into, for sure, SimCity 2000 and Sim Tower, a little bit of Sim Farm, and then some of the other Maxis games I played at like friends' houses or something like that. I think, connecting to our last topic, games like this, simulation games, were kind of a way around screen time, because I could be like, "Oh, mom, dad, they're educational. I'm like learning something about city management." Right?
Which on the surface it is. Like I remember there was like a train was one I played, which was like just basically what it sounds like. You're basically like a train coordinator management, like figuring out how to get loads of cargo from here to there and set up the right routes to make the most money. And like
Right.
it's basically like business simulator kind of thing that you, in effect, you could almost categorize as like economics 101 or whatever that you're learning. And it's bizarre how much fun I had and how many hours I spent. Or like even what was the one? It was like Wayne Gretzky hockey, but it wasn't a game that you played. It was just the management simulator of like your team, and you didn't actually even watch them play the game. They just simulated like the game in text, basically.
Yeah.
Told you who scored, who got injured, who got penalties, and then you could trade players and all that. Like purely just like, yeah, obviously my brain was very wired that way of management. Somehow it's like a fun game to simulate.
Well, I think like Football Manager is one of the most popular games on Steam, or like Farming
Yes.
Simulator. Like some of these sort of business sim games are even more popular than the big AAA titles that you hear about,
Yeah.
on console, which is funny to me. Um, See, I think there's not much going on in Apple TV rumor world, other than somebody claims there's an Apple branded controller coming out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Mark Gurman, who's like a Apple rumor guy at, I forget which site he's at, but basically, he said there's a new, just kind of revitalize the rumors that before 2020 ends, there'll be a new Apple TV, and which we kind of assume at some point here. And also, yeah, an Apple TV controller. of some sort, or Apple controller, sorry, that could, I guess, in theory, go to the Apple TV or maybe your iPad as well. I'm really skeptical that Apple would actually release a controller, just because there's so much out there that they could just benefit from using the other,
Yeah.
Xbox, etc. But you never know. I guess maybe they're bored in their own isolation chambers, needing.
Well, and I've found so I have the one Xbox controller for use with Apple Arcade, and pairing it between whether it's my phone or the family iPad or even one of our laptops that runs Catalina, it's not that bad. I mean, you just have to redo the Bluetooth pairing process, and maybe an Apple branded one would be more like the AirPod experience, where it's like really easy to move between devices that are logged into the same Apple ID or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I am definitely still interested in that future hardware for TV and streaming, but then getting some of these games on the big screen.
Yeah.
So have you played any of the more recent Apple Arcade releases?
No, I just threw a bullet point in there to surprise you with Chris's confessional is the title
I see it. Yeah.
in the thing. And
Well, recurring segment.
yeah, except this is actually, so in terms of like actual breaking news, for I need like some sort of where's the, I don't have a good, it's not the right sound, but
Was that Chewy?
yeah. It's not good. It's not the maybe Breaking bad news. No, but the I actually this month I was when I going through, just I don't know what kind of mood I'm deleting my Facebook account. I'm doing like sort of purging, right? And I finally was like, you know what? I'm not playing Apple Arcade games. So I was looking into how much I'm paying and what just how the subscription works and stuff. And I was like, and then before I knew it, I canceled. I intentionally did it. But I unsubscribed, canceled my subscription to Apple Arcade. So what this means for the podcast is not, I mean, who knows? We can still talk about games. It's not going to end the podcast, but yeah, it was kind of just like, I'm paying for this. I love doing the podcast with you and having chat about video games and life and whatever around it. But I know that I'm not playing Apple Arcade games, and it's just not a draw for, like we've talked about before. I don't need to reiterate all that, but and so it was kind of like, I'm fine with paying for stuff, on the guise of it's for a podcast, it's for fun, it's for whatever, and exploring that. But it also started to feel like I'm paying for this and sort of forcing myself to play it, even though I'm not really drawn to playing it at this point anyways. And that's the beauty, I think, for folks. Like, I remember somebody asking us at the beginning, like, should I go for the subscription or should I not? And obviously if you do the annual subscription up front, which then you're paying, I forget what it is, 50 instead of 60 or whatever the numbers, however it works out, you can just drop it for a month and join up again. And in theory, your saves might also still be there. I guess that's one thing I can test in a couple months if I join up again. But as long as the game supports, which most of them are supposed to, Apple's iCloud save, Game Center save, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I think they have to.
Yeah. So in theory, that should still be there, which I'll be curious about. But anyways, it was kind of like a bit of a, not in the grand scheme of things, very minimal therapeutic moment, but it was a nice kind of like, oh yeah, I don't actually have to do this. And I'm the one who pulled you into the Switch world. That's my fault. But so we don't have to, I'm still curious about the platform. I love Apple stuff, obviously. And even now I've upgraded all my computers to Catalina. And so got prompted. It was like 2 days after I canceled the subscription. Then I got upgraded my iMac and got prompted with a nice, like, Apple Arcade now on desktop or whatever prompt when I loaded up the Catalina iMac. And it was like, oh, maybe I should check that out. And actually it's still working until the end of the month here. So so that's my big.
Oh, interesting. So they gave you a new trial as part of the OS update.
No, actually, like my subscription ends at April 29th or something like that. Like
I see.
You cancel it so it doesn't renew, but it stays going until your payment or whatever is done. Like that, the last payment. They don't cut you off immediately and prorate it or something like that. So
right.
So that's my confessional for my Apple Arcade podcast.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we are more of a quarantine parenting gaming show at this point, and we'll keep doing that indefinitely, because it's been a lot of good conversations around games, both well, and I mean, I keep bringing up non-Apple Arcade games as well, in part because of some of the limitations on the selections on the platform. It does feel like we're in a new cadence of new games coming out. Like there was kind of a lull around the new year, and now there's more new games, more variety. And I kind of wonder if this is like the second wave of developers as opposed to the launch planned games that were happening.
Mhm.
So I've definitely tried a couple of the new releases.
Yeah, why don't you
Uh,
do here? I'm going to try out a new feature. I've got a 5 minute countdown overlay. So we're going to
oh,
blast
okay.
through new games Nick has tried in
New
five
games. All right,
minutes.
let's do it.
So starting
So
now.
I believe this week we saw the releases of A Fold Apart, which is a platformer with a origami postcard mechanic. So to move through the game, you take pieces of paper and kind of fold them around each other or fold them over each other to connect to your platforms and be able to move through. We didn't get very far in it. I think I'll go back to it. It has a very up
Mm.
character design vibe. It's some sort of story about a couple where they have to work in different cities, so they're sending postcards to each other, and you're trying to kind of reconnect. And it's a very emotional, story-driven kind of game. One of the interesting things is when you start the game, you get to choose the genders of your couple. So the story, I assume, is the same no matter what, but you can choose two men, two women, a woman, a man, and there was a fourth option that I think maybe was meant to be like non-binary for one of the couples, but it's hard to tell because they're just kind of changing the hair of the character design.
Right.
But I thought that was an interesting
Yeah.
step for inclusion in terms of the relationship doesn't really matter what gender you are. It's just you are going through the story in a character that makes sense for you as the player, which I like. We tried Beyond Blue, which is kind of maybe appropriate for Earth Day being this week. You're a scientist swimming through the ocean, and you get up close to different species and get to learn their names. And they also have, in a different view, actual video of actual like oceanologists and marine biologists talking about stuff. So that's
Mm.
one to explore. It's from the developers of
Never
Never
alone.
Alone.
Yeah.
Um, and so that one looks really pretty. It did not grab my son, which surprised me because he really likes nature documentaries. So we might try that one again, but that one didn't seem to be one that he was excited about. Although it did demonstrate he's getting better at 3D controls, which is interesting. And then played Skyfish, which came out a couple of weeks ago on arcade. Very strong 2D Zelda, like Link to the Past, SNES vibes. You're running around. There are monsters and multi-level obstacles, and you can break pots and cut down bushes to collect shards, which you can use to craft things and get a better sword. And it has this interesting mechanic where your sword is also a fishing pole that you can use to hook enemies towards you or hook little grappling things that let you move around the map. Um, it's been good. I played it with just the on-screen controls on my phone, and it works okay. Some of the boss battles are definitely more
Mm.
difficult without a controller, I would say, because you have to do a lot more dodging. Um, yeah, so I think those are the new Apple Arcade releases I've tried. I did go back to Grindstone because they did an update, I think we mentioned, with 15 new levels. So I cleared those out. They introduced a new color changing mechanic. It's still probably my favorite game on arcade that I keep going back to. Just a really great, relaxing puzzler.
Yeah. The Skyfish one, I actually just played last night in our Switch corner that I noticed is not in the list right now. I'll have to sabotage the list and the notes.
Yes, we can change the template now that we are
I just yeah.
doing things a little
We
differently.
still got a minute left. You did really good. Like a minute 20
Oh,
left still in your discussion, your recap. But Skyfish looks like the Zelda one. Looks like to me. I see that and I think I would love to see that on the Apple TV. That's like big color, bright
yes.
colors. Like it confined down to my phone or my. I don't have an iPad that's new enough to play this game. So that's part of the reason too why I know I need to or I wanted to cancel the subscription at this point, anyways. Is just because until like there's an Apple TV where it competes with my sort of mental space of how and when I game is sitting on the couch,
Right.
kids are in bed or with the kids, and we do something together like that. That's where the phone is more like where I play a quick game by myself on coming up that
Right.
we'll talk about, like Letterpress or Grindstone for that matter, which is the one I definitely will miss as well. If or when my subscription expires, I'm actually curious what happens to the game. Like if the games will stay installed, I presume, and I'll just click it, and it'll be like play this or subscribe again to play this game or whatever. Some sort of prompt I'm assuming will happen. So we'll see how much my mental memory of like hitting the Grindstone button on my phone triggers before I
Right.
just pay again for the thing. So 5 seconds remaining. That's it for
Um,
new games.
yeah, I think that covers my new arcade games. I could talk a little bit about some non-arcade games. Oh, there's a bell and everything.
Well, I did the
Fancy.
bell, but yeah, we can.
Oh,
But yeah, why don't we talk about quick iOS non-arcade games? We can do another five
yeah.
minute countdown just
So
for fun. That was
I
fun.
don't think I have 5 minutes to
Yeah.
talk about there. I just saw this morning Letterpress, which is one of those word games that I've gone back to over and over again over the years, and still play mostly with my mom and my sister and a couple of friends. Did a big update, Letterpress 5, I believe it is, and they added group play. So now you can create a group and auto match anyone in that group instead of just playing the person over and over again. And then within the group, you get rankings and statistics and stuff on like win loss and
Yeah.
words played and so forth. So just started a group with my family, and I think we'll continue playing the game, but now under that group mode instead of a bunch of individual games. Me versus my mom versus my sister, and so on.
And is that one where the groups? I hadn't had a chance. I just saw your tweet just a few minutes before we started recording, and that was like instant sort of nostalgia to. I can't remember when Letterpress. It was like one of the, not the first wave of games for iOS, but definitely sort of in that second wave. I think Lauren Brichter, maybe the guy who developed Tweety for
Yes.
Tweetbot or for Twitter app for iOS, developed it, and then it was sold to someone else. But yeah, nostalgia hit for me on that one. But so with the groups thing, is it? It looked like you can only create one group, or are you allowed to have multiple groups? Do you know?
I
If you didn't go that
think
far, it's fine. I just
you can definitely be a member of multiple groups, but I think you can only create one group.
right.
Yeah,
That's
so you have a group, and then you can be a member of more groups.
okay. Because that's I was debating, yeah, setting up like a good stuff group or whatever for the Discord folks. Patreon.com/goodstuffFM, by the way. Uh, for those
Good
folks,
plug.
yeah. But then I was like, well, if I set that one up, then I can't set one up maybe with my wife and friends or whatever that we wanted to do that way. So, but we'll investigate that a little further. Obviously, someone else could set it up that doesn't have internet community, I guess, to be a part of, and then I could just join.
Right.
So,
I
have
think
you?
letterpress is also held up as one of the vanguards of the flat design that came out with, was it iOS 7?
Yes, yeah,
That it was before that, and kind of heralded what the whole OS would start to look like,
yeah,
because it's a very minimalist interface for a word game, which is interesting.
yeah. Yeah, that one in threes was like sort of
Yes.
the skeuomorphic. Which one is it? Skeuomorphic, I think. A little bit. Anyways, it had like a little bit of 3D element to it, but less than what everything else before it had, and kind of those games
Right.
as they sort of transition to this new style of design. So, all right. Well, that was 2 minutes on 2.5, I guess technically on.
I went longer than I predicted. So I'll note one other thing, which is, so we've mentioned before that Apple Arcade lacks sort of a board and card game category, which is, at least for me, one of many of the games that I've purchased on the App Store over the years is in that category. Some of them digital only, and some of them the digital version of a physical game. So we grabbed Tokaido, I saw was on sale, and I've played this one physically once or twice. The premise is that you are a traveler along this famous Japanese road in a historical period, and you're visiting hot springs and painting paintings and collecting souvenirs and eating meals at inns. And the iOS version is great. Like, it's a really good adaptation of the game. Very clear interface with cute little character designs as they move around what would be just tokens on a board. And there's a couple different strategies you can play with a lot of this style of game, where you can like focus in one area and try to get all the bonuses, or try to be kind of spread out your strategy among the different sources of victory points. And you can play against AI. There's apparently also online play, although I haven't set up an account to try that yet. But that's been fun, and my son has enjoyed that one. And as with many board games we play as a family, he plays the way he wants to play, and I will suggest optimal strategy, and he may or may not take that advice. So he's not winning at it, but he's still having a lot of fun. I think especially the art style of the game helps with that. So he likes collecting the paintings, even though that's not the best way to get the most points. That's something he enjoys doing.
And is it like a pass and play, or how do you play it together as a family or as with your son?
Yeah. So you do pass and play on the same device, and whoever's farthest back along the road gets the next turn. So then you hand it to the next person, and then they pick which location they want to stop at next and score whatever points and make whatever decisions to like buy or not buy something or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And there's some randomness too that comes up. I don't actually remember how the randomness is implemented in the physical game, but some of the places you'll get like a random bonus, and obviously the app is just generating a random number.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I always like board games, and digital board games are nice because they play faster. There's like a really good tutorial mode usually where you can learn the game better than you could reading, like a 4 or 5 page instruction manual. The setup is instantaneous. You're not spending, 10, 15 minutes placing all the figures on the board and all that. And then you can complete a game in like maybe against the computer, maybe 10 or 15 minutes as opposed to 45 to an hour kind of scale. So it's always a nice way to really get into a game and learn the strategy. I've done that over the years with Carcassonne and Dominion and these other popular board games where I even own the physical copy, but the digital version is just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that's one I go back to. And like I said, I feel like that's an area that's missing on Apple Arcade, but then you get into complicated licensing things where these games are actual games being printed by a company, so they'd have to have a developer do a deal with Apple, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always, and there was one Carcassonne, no, maybe it was Carcassonne that had a really good online version or iOS version, and then was sold to develop, or they shut down the online play. I forget which one it was that.
I think the physical game developer signed only a limited time license with the digital game developer, and now there's a totally new version of the digital game with a new developer that they transferred the
licensing or whatever.
They redid the app with a new developer because the digital license to play the game changed or turned over or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like your favorite show leaving Netflix, right? It's kind of like that.
And replacing the lead actor with someone else that is you don't recognize, but is supposed to be just as good. But I haven't played the new one, so I can't say. I just remember the developers of the original were really passionate about it and really loved the game, obviously, and that was the skeuomorphic era game for sure. It
had a lot of wood paneling, just like the old Game Center app, and I remember that being one of the first board game ports for iOS that was like really, really good, and it worked on iPad and iPhone at the time. So that was an old example of one I definitely played a lot of as a digital board game.
Yeah.
I have not tried the new one.
Yeah. Cool. But yeah, Letterpress is great to have back. And I mean, it actually didn't go away. I think it's just an update, right? So I just hadn't had it.
Yes.
I had uninstalled it at some point on my phone. And then it does have a Mac OS version as well that's compatible as far as syncing play. So that's kind of a nice option too for folks, and an iPad, of course, as well. So that's a fun one. And I think, I don't know, it's been a while since we had it, and I don't know, I think our kids would enjoy it enough now. They can spell, they can read words, and so obviously at varying levels of, of competency there. But so definitely, like, kindergarten, grade 1, wherever your kids are at with reading, definitely would be a good one to try and have a bit of fun with too, as long as you're not, taking it too seriously if they don't get all the words right away. It can get stressful, I guess, if it's a timed word game. So, cool. Well, that's a good run through of I think all the sort of video game stuff. On our brief Switch corner, I pulled out Breath of the Wild again and kind of like navigating that one and getting reconnected with it. Just riding a horse around the world feels very relaxing for some reason these days.
You can actually go outside, sort of.
Yeah. And but I learned the hard way not to accidentally swing your sword and hit your horse, because it will run away from you when you do that. So understandably,
I have not played.
So, But yeah, that's sort of where that's at, and I think we'll cut her off there. So if you want to get in touch with us and give us feedback, we'd love to hear from you. We're on Twitter at 25C Arcade. I'm Chris at Goodstuff.fm as well if you prefer to email. And but thank you for listening to 25 Cents and Apple Arcade podcast? Question mark. You can find me on Twitter at iChris.
And you can find me on Twitter and most everywhere else as Ultra Nerd. That's NURD.
And of course, you can find 25 Cents wherever you listen to podcasts. And be sure, like I said before, check out the Good Stuff Patreon, patreon.com/goodstuff, to support the podcast network as well as get involved in our Discord. And if you're a Minecraft player, we've got a Minecraft server that we play. I need to actually log on and check that out. It's been a while since I've ran through the world and checked things out and done a little screencast or whatever of it too. But yeah, we have lots of fun in there, and then chat in the Discord about life and a little bit of COVID and a lot of goofy other stuff. So patreon.com/goodstuff. And yeah, thank you for listening. Have a great day. See you later.
Bye.
I'm just going to pull up. I've got letterpress on the screen. If anybody's still out there. I don't think I can give away things or show things I shouldn't show. So if I wanted to play with you, manage player, no. New game,
Yes,
auto match, favorite players, add a favorite. Oh, I have to find your, search for a favorite by typing your player name. Here, maybe I'll turn off the screen just for a second.
I think it's just Ultra. I think it's just Ultra Nerd because it's my Game Center name. Maybe it's. Oh no, they don't do. It's not Game Center. It's their own thing.
I added you as a favorite. So let's see. Does that look like you? Can't tell.
It's like me at a telescope, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then that is you. It just like wasn't. It was too small to verify what exactly was going on. Silent mode off. Let's see. Is my phone muted? Oh, it is muted. There we go. The sound effects are. So for anybody who's wondering, letterpress, what it looks like, this is what it is. It's kind of like a word puzzle game. And now it's been a while since I played it. You're trying to like circle the words that.
Yeah, so the last time I came back to it after a long break, I forgot you don't have, unlike Boggle, you don't have to have the letters next to each other.
Oh, okay.
So you can jump all over the screen, and it's almost more about territory control than it is about words exactly. Although the longer the word you can get, the better you can do. And then let's see, how does it work? If you spell a word, you block that word and all of its prefixes, I think.
Yeah, so the letters I pick become my color, and then you can't use those letters, right? I think is how it works.
So if they are light colored, I
yeah.
can take them over, but if you've completely surrounded a letter, it becomes dark colored and I can't take it without first claiming the letters next to it. So like I'm gonna do.
I've got the like dark mode on too, which probably isn't helping.
Yeah. It's like if I play, so I'm gonna play a like try to claim the corner word with what you just did, right?
Put it back into the light mode just for.
I think there was something where you can unlock more colors in an in-app purchase.
Yeah, I did that at some points because I clicked the like.
Mine is like orange and green, if you can see.
Yeah. And so then what's neat is you can have
forest is apparently the color scheme.
Right. You can have multiple games going on at the same time, and it's just like turn-based, so there's no pressure to like do it now unless your friend is a mean jerk who won't. Oh, I can chat with you in the game too.
Oh, I haven't tried that, and I don't. I have not really played with random people. I think you can. Yeah. I've just only ever really played with friends.
So my username is iChris on there, surprisingly, and you're Ultra Nerd. So, anyways, so yeah, now you've locked those words, or DNS are locked, right? I can't. Oh no, I can pick them.
You can use them, but you won't claim them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think, yeah.
And the game ends when.
I forget how to actually add you. When the board is completely filled, so all 25
Right.
are taken.
Yeah.
So yeah, so my my mom and I tend to play where we purposely don't close the board. There'll be like one or two squares left open, and we go for as long as we can with words. So like our last game, we got to 50 played words
Oh well.
from ramshackle to spans.
Nice. Oh, I see. Yeah. Fancy chats.
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll shut this off for now. I should go check on the Minecraft players here.
Yes.
In the
My headset just gave me my battery warning, so I'm gonna stop recording.
So wherever you are, if you're watching this, thanks for watching, and subscribe to whatever way you're watching it. Then there'll be new shows the next time we record. You'll get a notification of a live stream. So Periscope or Twitch or YouTube, Facebook, whatever you happen to be on. And then yeah, next time. Usually we record Thursdays. Wednesdays I'm doing it's not a good stuff show technically, so I think there's weird overlaps with where I'm streaming it. But anyways, there's a Wednesday afternoon show, troubleshooting the internet with some random person that I talk with about life in quarantine and business. So feel free to tune in for that. And yeah, Nick and I will be back in a week or two. Depends on how life goes, how work-life balance goes.
Yes, where my work life is a little skewed for a few more weeks, and then it'll be more normal again.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
You never know what happens. Yes. Anyway, so we'll turn off the stream. Thanks for